Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to round 5 of the Blood on the Bayou Circuit series, the third and final circuit series before the big capstone in June. This is going to be Zetta on Florian versus Jaden on Azalea. What do you think of this matchup, Jonathan?
So Zetta probably on a more defensive build, this kind of mid-range defensive Florian. It's gonna be interesting to see how Azalea can get over those defenses. Obviously, she has that ability with the dominate.
Yeah, and Florian has been seeing a lot of play recently as one of the more premier decks in the format. Not only is there a lot of defensive options for him, but he also has a lot of very powerful cards such as the Plow Under and the Felling of the Crown, which allows him to just push through these late games. So it's going to be interesting to see if that defensive option can keep up with the aggressiveness of Azalea, as she is just going to keep trying to pound all of these big dominated arrows at him.
Yeah, pump, 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 big dominated arrow for most of the, 11 or 10 damage. Jaden, very familiar with Azalea, has been playing Azalea for a very long time. Big fan of the Rangers, was playing Lexi before. Interested to see what bow Jaden runs. He's been prone to using Sandscour Great Bow in the past. Because this is a circuit event, he may just be thinking, all right, I gotta win. I'm gonna run Death Dealer.
Yeah, and you could also say there's an option for Dreadbore, which I think he just flashed briefly, just because Florian tends to run 12 to 15 defense reactions, and Dreadbore's card text saying that no defense reactions can be played from hand for arrow attacks matters a lot in that aspect.
Yeah, definitely another option of the many options that Rangers have.
Alright, looks like we're flipping up the equipment. It is indeed that Dreadbore, along with the Enchanted Quiver. And we're seeing this as a New Horizons list, which is very interesting compared to the popular Skullbone Crosswrap list that most Azalea players take into events.
How does the New Horizon build kind of differ for Azalea as opposed to the regular Skullbone Crosswrap, which allows you to see the top of your deck for the dominate effect?
I think that this build gives Azalea some more options. Of course, having 2 arsenal zones means that you get to be slightly more flexible going into turns. And we're seeing card in hand, in Jaden's hand, the Heat Seeker just gives you an ability to flip off the top to get that first zone in case you have a Ponder or an extra card left over. It also lets you mount slightly more aggressive assault with the Snapdragon Scalers on certain turns, so it's going to be interesting. Jaden obviously wants to be very aggressive, that Dreadbore giving him the option to push through any defense that Zetta might want to use, so we'll see how he wants to use this effectively. Zetta's first turn coming through, just going to be activating the Grasp of the Arc Knight. Azalea, notably, not one that really pitches into arcane damage. So these rune chants might be leaking damage over the course of the game, which should help Zetta in that department.
Do you think Jaden really gonna choose his time to block? Still choosing to block here, even though it is just vanilla damage, this Cadaver's Tilling.
Yeah, and I think this is a benefit of the 2 arsenal zones. He knows he has 2 buffs in both of his arsenal zones, and that arrow is extra, as Jaden doesn't want to be aggressive with maybe a double arrow turn. Just deciding that the Red in the Ledger, while it is great, is not needed. Florian has a lot of good, 1 card or 2 card plays, so the red might not be as much value. The Heat Seeker providing a little bit more value in that aspect.
Could also be a Codex target in the future, but I think you're absolutely right, Charles. Florian very good under the Read in the Ledger text effect.
And I think the opt off of that read the glide path is revealed to premeditate to Jaden, deciding should he want to keep it on the top or put it on the bottom as a threat later in the game. As Azalea's big weakness is that she runs very hot at the beginning with her arrows and pumps, but if you can survive to the late game, then she kind of loses all of her pumps and her arrows become less impressive. Jaden really thinking about whether or not he wants to use that ability there. And it will be the premeditate loaded here. And this is very interesting because Jaden has that Heat Seeker in hand, which he's deciding to pitch here.
Maybe didn't have the resources to use all of his pumps, and then also send the Heat Seeker.
Yeah, I think Jaden decided that this is just the better play. Alternatively, if he just played one less pump, he could have the Heat Seeker on hit effect plus the Ponder, basically give him both arsenal zones. But in this case, satisfied with one arsenal zone and swinging that drill shot for 14 or 13.
And drill shot has a really useful effect here right now. Zetta's armor still fully unused.
Yeah, putting a minus counter on something like the bark skin of the Millennium Tree is going to greatly diminish how much it blocks. So Zetta... Okay. Zetta blocking for 11, letting the defense reaction cover up the rest of it. Notably, having
crucially played from Arsenal. Yeah.
Due to the Dreadbore's effect.
But Zetta also unable to decompose in the past 2 turns, even though has been able to play cards with decompose effects.
Jaden's
choosing
hand.
the Arsenal pass. Jaden is back.
Rain Razors, Knock the Death Whistle, looks like a Lace of Frailty, and a Bolted Shot in the hand for Jaden. A lot of options, should he want to go a little bit wide for this turn.
Or if he wants to go tall with the Knock the Death Whistle effect.
Yeah, and I think he might be looking for a Dominate play here. Trying to decide, does he want to resolve the Knock the Death Whistle in this case? He could just buff the Bolt and Shot and then shoot it, arsenal the knock for the next turn, but that does leave him open to something like the Plow Under. So it looks like we're just going to go ahead and see it be played here.
Searching up a Heat Seeker.
Heat Seeker, probably the best or second best arrow for this style of deck. It's just going to constantly keep the arsenal filled and allow Jaden to play off of larger hands thanks to the New Horizons. So this is a very good pick.
Dominated with the Azalea effect. Has a pump in hand, choosing not to deploy it.
So Zetta just figuring it out. No defense reactions, only one card he can block with from hand. Jaden choosing to not pump this, deciding that the 5 Dominate might just be good enough, even though there is still quite a lot of equipment left for Zetta that can help him cover up this damage. Although the equipment left are stuff that he wants to save for more impactful turns. So Jaden, knowing that he doesn't want to use the equipment, is just throwing this as a naked 5. As the Rootbound Carapace comes out, this is only going to be blocking, I believe, 4, as that is the red one, still leaking 1 through.
Haunting Rendition at instant speed to block the rest of it.
Zetta and Florian having the very defensive tools for the turn, as that puny arrow is easily covered up.
Maybe Jaden regretting not pumping it, but Florian now on a 3-card hand. A lot of options for disruption if available. Pitching to grasp.
Yeah, it looks like Zetta is just content on blocking. Sending, any leftover cards, he's fine with just swinging the Reaping Blade and making the Rune Chant. He just wants to play defensively until he can decompose and have his hero ability come online, and then cards like that Swarming Gloom Veil just get so much better.
And maybe trying to prioritize getting defense reactions into Arsenal, knowing the Dreadbore effect really shutting off a lot of the deck.
Yeah, this bow from the Azalea is definitely making Zetta have to change up their playstyle just ever so slightly. I guess they're forced to play in a more particular way. Jaden thinking about their turn, deciding on what they want to do. I believe there's a Hamstring Shot or Rain Razors that lace with Frailty in Arsenal.
Maybe trying to figure out, has a Tunic resource as well to activate the bow if something is on top that Jaden wants to dominate, that wants to use the Azalea ability to get, keeping it on top. Jaden down by 9 against this super defensive Florian. Can he finally break through with damage?
Ooh, and this is a very interesting play. The Codex of Inertia is going to fill in that second Arsenal zone, basically giving him an extra card on the turn, as well as giving him a Ponder for the end of the turn.
And knows what that card is, kind of aching over that decision.
Oh, and it is a Release the Tension. Release the Tension, making the arrow attack not being able to be defended by Defense React from Arsenal, and the Dreadbore making defense reactions not being able to be played from hand, meaning that Zetta is locked out of defense reactions for this attack.
Unlikely, without defense reactions, unlikely to be able to cover up this attack for 15?
This is an attack for 15. 9 buffs and 5 from the Hamstring Shot and 1 plus the Dreadbore. This is over quarter of Zetta's life total, as they are deciding how they want to block this attack. Again, no defense reactions can be played at all, thanks to the buff and the bow in this case. So any cards being blocked will just be normal cards at this state, which makes it a lot harder for Zetta to decompose. As if any Rootbound Carapace are in hand, then they just can't play them.
Only defending with one card might just be locked out, or just trying to play the rest of their hand.
Yeah, I think Zetta realizing that the on-hit was going to come through regardless, deciding to take the damage just to make sure that their turn can still work.
Jaden remembering his Ponder trigger. A lot of triggers for Zetta. Hamstring shot, frailty, inertia? Pitching to Reaping Blade looks like a defense reaction in hand. Jaden looking at that Codex of Frailty in Arsenal.
Yeah, and I think seeing Zetta pitch that defense reaction just goes to show what the context of his hand really was and how backbreaking the Release the Tension and the Dreadbore have been so far.
Yeah, pitching 2 defense reactions and has to get rid of all of those cards due to the inertia effect. Jaden making out like a bandit on that turn cycle.
Oh, and we're seeing, I believe, the blind Azalea into a Heat Seeker here. Or not Heat Seeker, Searing Shot.
It's a Searing Shot, yeah.
As we see a Lace with Inertia and another Rain Razors in the hand.
Jaden, seeing a lot of the Rain Razors, has shuffled the deck due to the Knock the Death Whistle effect, so might be the same Rain Razor that we've seen a couple times now, but
we're seeing the Dreadbore be activated, of course, both those Arsenal zones existing. Yeah, the Inertia token's really putting in a lot of work, making sure Zetta can't keep an Arsenal to pocket a defense reaction with, and then forcing Zetta to not be able to defend with the defense reactions from hand, making their blocking decisions that much harder for him.
Yeah, this Florian has only decomposed 1 time in maybe, I think this is the 3rd or 4th turn cycle. Jaden really putting on these debilitating effects that Azalea is known to do.
Yeah, and Jaden
has the option of snaps here, has the Rain Razors in hand.
Yeah, he has the Tunic counter up, the Rain Razors in hand, should he want to continue the turn. The players kind of joking around about the defensive options that Zetta has to their disposal. Of course, not wanting to waste that very precious Face Purgatory on a simple 2-block.
Blocking with the Lane Strike. Gonna get another Inertia token. And then the Searing Shot effect, of course, doing 1 more point of damage. Yeah, so block.
Both players trying to figure out how much damage that is actually taking.
Yeah.
+1 from the Dreadbore, plus the on-hit of losing 1 additional life from Searing Shot itself.
Jaden choosing not to cash in the Snapdragon Scalers to send out the Heat Seeker, thinking, I've done enough damage with this hand.
Yeah, and Zetta had 3 cards left in hand. Not a lot of, and without Dominate, there's the potential that he could just block out the Heat Seeker. So Jaden just taking it slow, deciding to not do anything. And then once again, I believe the last card in hand for Zetta was a Sink Below that is getting bottom to the Inertia token.
You said it earlier, Charles. Florian running a lot of defense reactions, maybe regretting some of those defense reactions in this case.
Yeah, maybe Zetta didn't anticipate the Dreadbore in this case. Maybe anticipating that Jaden just wanted to be a lot more aggressive and being severely punished by it. As we are seeing
4 buffs.
A slew of buffs.
Wow. Codex of Inertia. This is going to be the 3rd turn in a row that Zetta is under the inertia effect.
Yeah, and this is just playing into what Jaden wants to be doing. He wants to keep Zetta off of an arsenal so that Zetta can't arsenal any defense reactions to get around the bow. Forcing Zetta to just have a clunky hand of defense reactions that can't block or do anything.
Jaden may be really anticipating these defensive decks and slotting this Codex of Inertia to great effect. I mean, this is a 4 buff hand, 4 buff arrow.
Yeah, I think this is on hit Inertia, on hit Frailty, on hit Seek and Destroy, and on hit Ponder.
2 of those buffs just there for the damage. Zetta already under inertia.
Yeah, and the fact that he can trigger the inertia to trigger before the Seek and Destroy means that the Seek and Destroy won't really have an effect.
Florian so sluggish in this matchup due to all the inertia effects, but also going to be hit with a frailty should this attack hit.
Yeah,
it is likely to hit.
I think at this point, anything that blocks is just going to have to be blocked with. I don't think Zetta can afford to keep any non-defense reaction cards in hand to try to make a play, especially since that Reaping Blade is only going to be coming in for 2 damage. Zetta thinking this drill shot for 16 looming before him, over half of his life total represented here.
Drill shot also a pretty, not a scary on hit, but, incrementally gets Jaden a lot of value to turn, this bark skin of the Millennium Tree into just a 1 block in the future. Jaden snapping. Yeah. Choosing the drill shot effect onto the bark skin of the Millennium Tree.
Now, I believe because Zetta didn't draw a card after blocking with the Face Purgatory, that his hand was all attacks. And then both players catching it as Zetta draws the card itself. Looks like he drew into an Arcane Seed's life.
Yeah, Jaden just going through the on-hit of Heatseeker here will allow him to use that extra arsenal slot with the Ponder.
Yeah, it is an arrow that basically just replaces itself while also turning on the New Horizons for his 2 Ponders tokens.
So Jaden doing, what was that, a 16 drill shot into a 5 attack?
Yeah, 21
attack.
21 damage turn from the Azalea.
With a ton of on-hits here.
Yeah, Jaden just saying, oh, you're a deck that's going to have 12 D-Reacts, so this is the options I'm going for. And Zetta just shuckling, saying, yeah, that sounds about right.
At this point, Zetta really just needs to hope that Jaden has an off turn. Which is, very possible in Azalea. does not always have access to an arrow, does not always have access to the right amount of pumps. Once that happens, Zetta can come back with hopefully a disruptive attack of their own.
But see, that's the beauty of having this New Horizons list, is that Jaden just put 2 cards in his arsenal before drawing up, so he is seeing 6 cards on his turn. And with the Azalea ability, he's able to replace any bad cards or cards that don't make the turn work with a card that can potentially make his turn work. So
these cards, I think, create a turn that Jaden can work with. Lace with Blood Rot. There's a Knock the Death Whistle in there. Red in the Ledger. Heat Seeker in Arsenal. Did you see what that last card was that he just looked over?
I believe there's an Amplifying Arrow in his arsenal as well, and I think the last card in his hand is another Codex of Inertia.
Yeah, maybe has a little too many arrows in this case.
Yeah, I'd be interested. Seeing as his hand is very arrow heavy, getting the Bolt and Shot in this case seems the more favorable task.
Yeah, it really unlocks Jaden's ability to go wide here.
Yeah, this is actually so good because now he can play that Lace with Blood Rot, throw the Bolt and Shot, and then Codex of Inertia to put another card back in his arsenal and force Zetta to put the top card of their deck in their arsenal and discard another card, which could be potentially another blocking card.
Yeah, won't be able to reload because it has 1 card in the arsenal already.
Yeah, I believe
Jaden can go wide here, but is maybe not presenting as many disruptive effects as they would like. Unless he can somehow get this Red in the Ledger in Arsenal.
But I think that's fine, right? You're swinging this with Go Again, and then you can pitch the Codex of Inertia, since it's a yellow, to load that Red in the Ledger and then fire it, keeping the Heat Seeker in Arsenal.
Instead, just choosing to come in with the on-hit of Heat Seeker.
And this is also another interesting play. Should this on-hit go through and Jaden being able to have the 2 arsenal slots, he'll be able to arsenal that Codex with Inertia, and on his next turn he can just play the Codex of Inertia out of his arsenal with the effect
to replace itself.
Of just replacing itself.
Yeah, but this may be a good opportunity for Florian to really come back into this. I mean, instead, choosing a block, saving the health.
Yeah, Florian has taken quite the life deficit at this point in time, 10 to 22, as Zetta just chooses to activate the Grasp of the Arknight and shoot the Reaping Blade. Just 1 card for the best option that Rune Blades have access to, should they not have many actions to do.
Yeah, but Florian is rapidly losing the life total that would allow him to really flip the table on Jaden. Zetta really hoping Jaden has an off turn.
Yeah, I'm very surprised of the efficiency of Jaden's deck and how it's just been able to sidestep all of the defensive options that Zetta's deck normally has and really just push through all of this extra damage. It just goes to show that the creativity in the design of this deck just really works.
Yeah, it works so well, in fact, that Jaden, off a blind Azalea, is getting one of the best arrows in this position. dominate on the remorseless. So defense reactions can't be played from arsenal. Defense reactions can't be played from hand. Zetta in a bind if they have any defense reactions in their hand right now.
This is the lace with inertia, so this will just be the on hit. Jaden just deciding to load the bolt and shot. The other great thing about the Dreadbore is that because its effect gives the arrow +1, activating it to load bolt and shot will always give the bolt and shot go again. And this just becomes a very efficient play line. And Jaden's looking to go pretty wide here. This bolt and shot's going to have go again. He can break the chain to play the lace with inertia, and then play the codex to get another bolt and shot. Or he could choose to get any other zero cost arrow like the searing shot, as he doesn't have the tunic counter for the remorseless. But he does have the one floating, so yes, he could
have the one floating, yeah.
Yeah, so it looks like we are going to see the lace with inertia into the codex, into the other bolt and shot, and then into the remorseless itself. So Jaden just able to stay wide on multiple turns this game, really push through the defenses of Zetta.
Again, Florian in this case, several turns in, only able to decompose once.
Yeah, that just goes to show that if you can stop Florian from playing the defense reactions, the primary source of his decomposing, then Florian just kind of can't stick enough ground to get off his feet and get moving.
Zetta with options here has cards in hand, has armor to give up, won't be able to make full use out of that armor. All right, thinking about the Codex of Frailty effect.
Yeah, and I think Zetta's not realizing that there's still a lot of damage left on this turn. Maybe too much damage as the bolt and shot comes in for 7.
Yeah. Florian might just be dead. 7 into 5. Can only block 5 total left in the turn.
So it looks like he will be able to stay alive this turn, as he is at 6 and the remorseless is coming in for only 5. But being at 1 against an Azalea is very scary.
So Lace with Inertia on hit won't even be able to keep that arsenal. Can Jaden close this out? 17 health life lead. Just needs pumps.
Oh, and I think he drew 3 pumps with an amplifying arrow in his arsenal. So I think this is the closer in this case.
But how can Jaden flip up this card?
I don't think he needs to. Each pump on the amplifying arrow is going to give him a +4, so he's just going to swing it for 14. With no defense reaction in arsenal and not being able to play any from hand, Zetta would have to have basically 2 of his block cards to live for the turn.
The amplifying effect only works if the amplifying arrows face up, though. So wouldn't get the +4? Yeah. But does get at least +3, so +9 plus the amplifying effect. It's not exactly supposed to get the +4. So might be showing too much damage here to close out the game, but
So I guess both players in the same boat as I am, not fully understanding the card text on it is conditional.
yes. So definitely wasn't showing that much damage on that turn, but Jaden definitely with a lot of outs to win that game could have kind of blind Azalea'd for another pump that would have been able to close the game out, or found an arrow with Dominate that would have closed the game out as well. So Zetta definitely on the back foot there for the entire game. Wasn't able to decompose, wasn't able to use their defense reactions, had to pitch defense reactions in order to even attack with the Reaping Blade. So definitely really tough matchup for Florian. Azalea, what a good option in this meta where Florian was poised to be kind of a meta threat. Anything else to say on that round, Charles?
No, I think it was just a very interesting game to watch. Of course, Jaden's deck working exactly as intended and really shutting down the Florian in that aspect. Unfortunately, Zetta not really able to get off the ground with the decomposing. Just kind of fizzled out. His hands didn't work. The rune chants weren't generated. The decomposing didn't happen. And instead, he just got blown up by the Azalea.
All right. Thanks for watching round 5 of the Blood on the Bayou Circuit Series, the third series, as we approach Battle Hard in Houston. Stay tuned. Thanks, everyone.